All right, we are recording, and I want to welcome everyone to our fourth Zoom session. And I am going to start sharing my screen. And others will join us, I'm sure. Okay, so let me see. Who is here and who is not? Hey, Tina.
Hi.
I don't know if John is here with us yet or Renita. Okay. All right. Well, welcome everybody. And first, let me begin by telling you how much I really appreciate your flexibility. I know this semester has been all about flexibility. My brother-in-law who passed away last week, kind of a surprise. So I really do appreciate your allowing me to do that and your flexibility. And I promise you that means when I grade your part A, B, C, and D, I'm going to remember your flexibility. I just want to make sure.
Yay!
I just want to make sure it gets beyond task stream. So that's my major goal. So just to kick off tonight, I want to kind of blackboard first to talk about, of course, our Zoom session tonight is November 7th. We do have a face-to-face meeting this coming weekend. So we'll start at 9 o'clock. Remember, we'll come to the back part, the library there, and we'll enter there. Our plans are to be there from 9 to about 4, 3:30 or 4 on Saturday. On Sunday, I would like to start at 8:30 and hopefully be done by 12, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Is that okay with everybody? Thumbs up if that's okay?
Yes.
Oh, stop it, Tony. I know you want it. I do want to know if someone would like to do the devotion. Please let me know. Basically, it's a script, it's a reading or something if you'd like. If not, I will certainly have one ready for that. But if anyone wants to, I do want to offer it to you all as well. So after this weekend, we'll meet there. This will be our last face-to-face weekend. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that as soon as I get off this Blackboard thing. And then our next Zoom session is on the 13th, which is next week. And then, so for 3 weeks in a row, we're going to have our Zoom sessions. Now, this 7th session, Zoom session 7, I am going to be asking you to make individual appointments with me. We will not, you all will not need to come on. What I'd like to do is to have like a 15-minute session. So I'm going to send you a document. I'll try to do a Google document where you fill in the 15 minutes if you want to Zoom with me. And the purpose of that is to basically talk about, it's really tying up any loose ends, answering any questions you have about moving forward in 732, and anything else you want to do. It's kind of like think of it as your end of the year conference. So it'll be about 15 minutes. And the way it will work is I will send you a Zoom invitation as normal at 6 o'clock on December the 4th. And if you have the 6:30 time, then all you need to do is just answer that Zoom at 6:30. And if I'm talking with someone and we haven't quite finished, just let me know you're there, but then just kind of come in whenever your Zoom time is. So I'll try to do it tomorrow. Or if one of you knows how to do Zoom, Google Docs, and could send one to your colleagues real quickly for that date, it would be awesome. Kind of take the responsibility off me and I may forget it. But what I'm looking at is like in 15-minute increments, 6, 6:15, 6:30, where people sign up for it. And then on the 4th, really, if you don't even want to Zoom with me, if you don't want to have that 15 minutes, that's fine. You don't have to. But if you do, or if you need more than 15 minutes, just let me know that as well. But I will, in the lack of a Google document, I'll send that out tomorrow to do that. That's my plan. What I'd like to do on that date really is to kind of wrap up everything and to get you ready for 732. I also want to remind you, I think that's everything here. So, any questions before I start with tonight? We have 4 presentations, and I'll get to those in a minute, but I want to spend a little time because I'm beginning to get your SPA. Part A, Part B, Part A and Part B right now. So I want to talk a little bit about those and to bring you back up to speed. Okay, in 730, you are required to do a strategic leadership and school reform policy analysis, so strategic plan analysis. Basically, what you're doing then is you're looking at your strategic plan, developing a team, and you're looking for weaknesses, and that's what this whole thing is about. This particular evidence, which is required in task stream, because remember, you're going for a superintendent's license, And in North Carolina, we do not give the practice exam for superintendents. We do, your license is based on evidences, a portfolio of evidences. And there are 6 evidences in Gardner-Webb, and this is the first one, the SPA. So when you enter something into TaskStream, number one, you've got to have my blessing on it, because I don't want us to put anything in there that's going to come back to you, because you must make a 3. The scores in TaskStream are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you must make a 3 or it will come back to you. And I have not had any student yet make anything less than a 3. Most make a 4. I don't want to have any want anything less and it come back to you. So we want it as close to 3 or 4 when we send it in there. We really want it in a 4. And you're going to do one of these evidences every one of the semesters that you're in. And once you do that, then you completed half of what you need to do for that certification. The other half, of course, is the dissertation piece, which we'll talk about in a minute with 731 all the way up to those courses. So that said, this is your first big one. And this is the format that for the next 5 after this one, this is the format that you will be using. It'll always be 4 components to it, part A, part B, part C, and part D. And they're all the same. Part A is asking you to do an assessment. Part B will always be asking you to do recommendations. Part C will always ask you to do a reflections and to share with stakeholders. And Part D is always going to be aligning it back to one of those 7 standards that we have to show everything is tied to. Did someone else join me? Renita, how are you? I didn't see you down there.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. All right. So you've been here with me for a little while. All right. So these are the 4 things that you've got to do. And so if you look at and here's where I am, by the way. I'm over here under SPA, Strategic Plan Analysis. And basically, if you follow this format, when you send it to me and I grade each component of it, really just follow the format. And if you want to have the headings, that's fine. Get rid of color. Don't want to see any red or any blues or greens. Just make it all black. Use the APA format. You might as well get used to that as well, because you should have, and also use the reference and the appendix. So if you have a picture or if you have data, like you pull from the website, your mission vision for the district, put that back in the appendix as well. Speak to it in your paragraph, but create an appendix and create a reference. Now, you may want to do that for each one of the part A, part B, part C, part D, but of course, when you finish the paper before it goes to TaskStream, you're going to move all the appendices, and all the references to where you just have one at the bottom of the paper. That's when you begin to kind of clean it up. And that's why I want to make sure I see it before you send it to TaskStream so I can help clean it up. John, let me know when you come on board, if he comes on board. All right, so if you follow this, and really all I'm asking you to do is just to answer each one of these paragraphs, but each one of these, all right, where is it? Yeah, so if you just write as if you're addressing each one of these paragraphs here, then you really are going to hit it well. So that's what I'm looking for, and I think the number of pages really is until you complete it. If you want to put charts, but here's the thing that I've noticed on a couple of them is there's not a lot about the achievement data. And what I'm really looking for is for you to go back to your district's report card and pull some of that data there, your 3 years, or make a chart with 3 years, because really what I'm looking for is, particularly for those things that are tested by the state of North Carolina, you ought to be able to say, I've looked at 3 years of the data. So the achievement data is really, if you're in a, it's going to be your 3 through 8th grade, end of grade, and your end of course, those 3 end of course for the high school. So that's the kind of data. Now, when it talks about other data points, here I'm looking at things like attendance. I'm thinking like your attendance data, your teacher retention rate data, other things that will help me get a good feel for the district. So what you're doing in this first part A, you really are giving me what your district looks like. You're telling me about your strategic plan, and you're giving me a snapshot of what your district is doing and where you are. The other thing you're doing is you have developed your team and you're meeting with them. Now, in your team meeting notes, I would prefer that you kind of, one, put the notes in the appendix if you want to do it that way. But really in your team notes, what I'm looking for is paragraph form. I'm looking for you kind of breaking it down to what was said, kind of what was done. And then if you want to put the actual notes, you can put those in the appendix. So I'm really looking for a couple of paragraphs about the team set around. We talked about the mission and vision. We talked about how it came about. You know, a couple of sentences about that. What I'm also looking for in the last two sentences here, or the last two parts, is number one is just, it could be a very short paragraph about, I am working with the Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and she has said that I am a go to do this and will offer assistance to me. I'm looking there for a couple of sentences that you have committed to having the central office aware that you're doing this. And you may want to develop that relationship because you're going to have central office contact for the next 5 projects as well. And then your next steps is a short little paragraph. And this is where this is your transition paragraph, because when you do part B, this is really your transition to it. Because when we turn in that final paper to task stream, you won't have part B listed at the top. You'll have that transition paragraph leading into part B. So that's your next step. So my advice would be to look at what part B is asking you to do and make that your next steps. Any questions on that? Now, we're going to spend some time. Here's my plan for the weekend. All day Sunday, as long as we're there, we're going to work on part A, part B, part C, part D. That's all we're doing Sunday. We're doing the spa. Now, I know, Vera, you're not going to be there with us. You'll be cruising on a ship somewhere. But if you want to Zoom with me privately, we can do it. But I think I don't know, have you gone to your 3rd weekend with the other group? All right. And I think they're working on the spa too. So you probably are ahead of the game on that from the rest of us. All right. So that's, you're shaking your head. If you need, Vera, if you need to talk when you get back, you and I can have a private Zoom session to do that. Okay. Because I feel like I'm shortchanging you. All right. So that's what we're going to do all day Sunday. So come prepared. Bring your laptops, bring your whatever you've done. We're going to write your part A, B, C, D, and then we're going to be done with it. Because I'm really hoping by the time we finish Saturday, we're done. So I'm really hoping that you've gotten a really good start on part A and B, and that you are almost ready, if you haven't already submitted those to me, so I can do some quick little grading, because I'm going to focus mostly on part C and part D. All right, so let me speak to, that's part A. Let me speak to part B really quickly, just so as you are developing it. Part B is where you are making the recommendations. And this is after you've met with the team in part A and you've had your notes. Part B is really a lot more about now what? You know, again, you got, and this, you see the transition here? You're going to, again, reiterate that my assistant superintendent's on my team, and he's really thinks this is a great way we may be able to use this to present to the board. And then you're going to talk about what's that one particular narrow, you've reviewed the strategic plan, you discovered something that you want to work on, or a weakness or strength. Now you're going to kind of break it down to what it is, and it may not be a department, it may be a policy, but generally it's going to relate to a department. And then you're going to take that 3 years and be a little bit more specific about why you chose that particular thing to work on. If you discover that your dropout rate is terrible and that your strategic plan doesn't do enough to address the dropout rate, then that's what your topic is going to be. That's your department or your topic, the dropout rate. And then you're going to look at the achievement data for the dropout rate for the last 3 years and compare that again, as well as anything that may be in your teacher working condition for the dropout rate. How do teachers feel about whether or not they're supporting kids? So then you're going to, again, meet with that team, and you're going to have a discussion. You're going to talk about the pros and cons. Your next steps will be, what are you going to do with the information now? My recommendation is that you tie it into part C, which is you share it with the stakeholders, the superintendent, the cabinet, the Board of Education, or whomever is the next step. So the next step always leads you to the next part. All right? All right, so that's part A, part B. And again, I just want to remind you that we had originally talked about having this by the end of October. I think I've gotten it from a couple of you, so keep working on that. And by the weekend, we're going to do definitely part C, and we're going to finish up A, B, work on C, and we're going to get started on D too, because D is going to be kind of an easy one. It's just going to require that you stretch your mind and go back and remember all the things that you did. All right, so that's the SPA. I want to also call your attention to, because you really need to start oh, by the way, when you finish the paper all together, A, B, C, and D, and you put it all together in one spot, here's where you put it, turn it in. That comes to me. And what I'll do at that time is I will assume that you are done with it. You made all the suggestions that I've given you, and then I will grade it. And then when I give it a grade and you get it back and it's the grade you want, which is 100, then that means I feel like it's ready for task stream. So once you get 100 and turn it in, that means it's ready for task stream, and you can check it off one of the 6 projects that you've done. I got distracted. But where's the APA style? Oh, there it is. APA, I just want to remind you that go ahead and start using APA in your references. And here's APA style. You can kind of maneuver through it, but become very familiar with the APA. All right. I want to stop and see if anybody has any questions. If not, I'm going to talk about the weekend. Are you all asleep?
No, sir.
All right, you're paying attention. All right, good deal.
I know we're here.
All right. Let's talk about the weekend then. All right, for face-to-face session, that was face-to-face session 2. We're on face-to-face session 3. I haven't put a lot into it yet, but this is probably what you should be getting in 731. So I'm not going to talk about the dissertation process or guidance, although you definitely want to look at it. I don't know if your 731 teacher or instructor has done that with you, but all of this stuff really is, where am I? Is this? Okay, yeah. All of this stuff is really what I would normally be doing with you if I were your 731 instructor. And I want to talk about that in a few minutes too. But anyway, so all of this APA style, we're not going to really cover that. We're going to talk about on Saturday, what we're going to do is we're going to start out talking about strategic leadership. Renita, you are here. John's not. You had agreed to be the superintendent. John had agreed to be our treasurer and our finance officer. And since both of you are from Durham County, and this is just for Renita and John, and you may have to tell John if he doesn't zoom in tonight. Your job is to become extremely familiar with Durham County Public Schools strategic plan, because the rest of us will serve as, it's an exercise where we're going to serve as the Board of Education of Durham County, and we're going to have a series. You're going to have to do some presentations for us based on some information. So bring your Durham County Public Schools strategic plan. Be prepared to address. You're the superintendent. We'll have questions for the superintendent and for the finance officer. We'll give you some chance. I'll give it all to you on Saturday morning. You'll have some chance to work on it. And Saturday afternoon, we'll do our presentations out. That's for you. So yours is related to Durham County Public Schools, the 2 of you. Because you are the finance officer and the superintendent, and your exercise will be reporting to a Board of Education, which will be the rest of us. And we will have some information that we're looking from you. We will have a matrix that we're looking, and we will be judging how you present that and whether or not you get to keep your job as superintendent and finance officer. For the other 5 or 6, your role will be, and it's not available to you yet, but your role will be to look at a fictitious school district And from that, we will do a similar exercise about strategic leadership and how to make sure we'll have an exercise built around the particular information that I have here. You will get a scenario, all the rest of us. There will be Durham County Public Schools because 2 of them are from there. The other will be a fictitious district, and the rest of you will work on developing that district's organizational chart. You'll be looking at the teacher working conditions surveys, the report card, and the common strategic plan. And from that, you'll be doing an exercise with that fictitious district, showing that you've developed some leadership skills. That's what we're doing in the morning, and in the afternoon, we're going to report out. We'll have those reports. We're also going to, and then of course on Sunday, we're going to spend a lot of time, all the time, talking about the SPA. And I also want to spend some time talking about EDLS 731. Since you shared with me last time, I have gone back and shared with our department, and I believe we're making some changes. You may not see them in 731, but you certainly will see them in 733. Our intent was never to overwhelm you. That's only a 1-hour course, and it really should be about getting you thinking about APA style, getting you thinking about what topic you want. What I have observed in looking through some things in Blackboard too, and this is not in any way meant to be a criticism, so please don't anyone take this away as a criticism of any of my fellow instructors, but when I go in and look at, well, that's not the place. When I go in and look at materials that are in those particular shells, I got to keep moving, you guys. I see a pattern that I'm not particularly thrilled about too. And again, and please don't share that this is because it's not a criticism. It's really not, as much as if I were you, I would fully understand why this is a problem. And I don't know whose shell this is, but if I go in and look at this, and I don't know if none of you are here, but this is 731 for another class. And the thing I look at is, when was the last time the instructor looked at this paper? When was the last time the instructor graded something? I don't like it. It's September 29th. And look at all this stuff that is sitting in there that is to be graded. And Gardner-Webb has a policy of 24 hours. Everything, except on weekends, everything that we know about, we should try to get out of our inbox within 24 hours. Grades are within 48 hours. So it's discerning. None of you are here, but it's discerning to me that your 731 stuff is not being graded. And it's because we really haven't trained our instructors for 731. But anyway, that's beside the fact. We are going to change it. We are going to create a different model. But I wanted to stop and pause before we begin our presentations and ask you about 731. And it's not really seeking complaints as much as, is it working for you? And is it getting any better? Because if not, I want to spend a little time on this Saturday as well. And it's not, I mean, I know you're an instructor, you're having Zoom sessions, I hope, but if you need me to, because you also get a pass-fail in 731, if you need me to, I will devote about an hour to it on Saturday to make sure that you have entered in everything you need to get a pass in 731. I guess I'm not looking for criticism. I guess what I'm looking for is by you telling me, do you want me to devote about an hour to 731 on Saturday so we can make sure that the 3 big things that you are required to have to pass, that you have them?
Yes, I would.
Anyone else?
I would too.
Yes.
I would.
Okay. All right. So all right. Well, you've taken away an hour of the fun activity we're having. Or the fun activity I'm going to have. All right. So I will, where's my calendar for, I will add that to do 731. And let me just say too, please, I will deny it emphatically, but I was not colluding, nor did I have any quid pro quo with you. Do not mention this to your instructor that we're doing this. I am doing this because I see a fault in the problem, and it's a fault with us that we haven't trained our folks well. It's not a fault with them. It's just that we really haven't been very clear about our expectations. Okay, is that an agreement? We'll do an hour, but you gotta not tell on me. And don't blame your instructor because it's not their fault, it's ours. We didn't do a very good job of telling them what to do. Remind you, A and B, please try to have that done before Saturday. Part A and Part B. We're gonna really concentrate on it. We are gonna finish all of this weekend. After this weekend, you will have 2 more Zoom sessions and a private conference with me. We're also going to talk about 732, what to expect in 732 this weekend. All right. Have I answered any questions, created any confusion, or anything like that? All right. So I have that we have Lisa Duffy is up with a Chapter 7 presentation. Is that right, Lisa?
That's correct, yes.
All right, so let me stop sharing. Let me move you all again. Let me stop sharing, which means that you can share, and we will, at least you have about 20 minutes.
Okay. Can you see that?
I can.
Okay. Let me get some of this out of the way. Okay, so I had chapter 7 in the text, and I really enjoyed reading this chapter. I felt like it was very relatable, very useful, good information covered in chapter 7. It starts off, oh, my internet's, hold on 1 second, there we go. Starts off with people naturally follow leaders stronger than themselves, and it's pretty much the premise of the entire chapter. It begins with a great detailing of an awesome leader, Harriet Tubman, who by many standards would not be someone initially considered a strong leader or someone with the cards in their favor to be able to be a leader. She started her life as a slave. She took a pretty hard blow to the head at 13 for refusing to assist a white overseer with a beating of an escaped slave. But she overcame many challenges and hurdles and went on to free over 300 slaves with 19 trips via the Underground Railroad, and was really respected by not just her followers, but other leaders as well that looked to her and the respect that she had gained as being a great example of solid leadership for many reasons. Some being that she was fearless, she unwavered in her leadership, she was convicted to act on her purpose, she knew what she wanted to do. She very much motivated others to trust in her and to follow her lead. And she became a leader despite her circumstances because others around her naturally followed those stronger than themselves and recognized that she was a source of strength. And they obviously respected her for that as a leader. So the text goes on to explain that respect from your followers and being a leader that's well respected is really not a guessing game. The less skilled will follow the more highly skilled. They seek out individuals that have greater skill sets than themselves. People are attracted to those that are better leaders than themselves. They want to achieve more, be more, do more, and so those that seem to have that ability to do so, they are attracted to them. And if you find a situation in which a strong leader may be following someone considered a weaker leader, it may just simply be out of respect to that position or to past accomplishments of that leader, or in just following the chain of command. But typically, we default to seeking opportunities to follow leaders that are stronger in their skill set, as well as just being more successful and being someone that we consider outside of maybe our own potential. So a couple pages from chapter 7 just kind of give you a visual of how within a group, when you are initially getting to know those that you may be working with on a project or assignment or a task before you, the group will begin to interact and you kind of get a feel for one another, and leaders start to take charge, and people initially kind of go their own way, but the leaders start to stand out, and so there are some sporadic moves among the group, but eventually the strongest leaders do stand out and others start to follow. And so the visual provided here on this slide just gives you that.
Very quickly, Lisa, too, this is something that is so easy to observe. Whenever you go into a meeting, and it may be a cross-section of people, maybe there's not an established leader, but you have a working group, just watch. And within 5 minutes, or at least within the first 30 minutes of that, you are going to see someone, because leadership does not like a vacuum. And for a person who's a real strong leader, they're not going to be comfortable in a room full of people. There's just that there is no leader. There's been a lot of research and where they would put people in a room and they would watch to see how long before someone comes up and begins to lead. It doesn't take long, because a strategic leader recognizes that a vacuum of leadership, or if there's no clear mission and vision, a real leader will just step up and begin to create one. And people will follow that person, and it won't be long before you'll see that happen. You know, these reality shows, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
Leaders are stepping up. They may not be the best,
That's right.
they may not be the strategic ones, but they are filling a void, because leadership does not like a void.
Very true. So the next slide, just another diagram, is when you do start to see that people will naturally align themselves and follow leaders stronger than themselves. The more leadership ability someone has, and the more quickly it is recognized in others, people get on board to follow those strongest leaders, or we leave to pursue our own agenda when leadership may be weaker than what we perceive that we want to seek out. So the text goes on to really break down the components of leadership that help you gain respect from those that are looking to you for leadership. The first one being natural leadership. It's just possessing that natural ability to lead others, and folks want to follow you, be around you, listen to you. But this is something that not all leaders have. It's not something that you can simply rely on to get you through the ups and downs of leadership, but it is a component of what may gain respect from followers that a leader may have. The next component is respect for others. The text really spends some time discussing how when you show respect for others, especially those who may have different powers than you, less powers than you, but just anyone that you interact with, all stakeholders, that is observed by others, and they gain respect for you by the respect that you show to others. The next component for gaining respect is courage. Showing a fearless approach with a focus on a clear mission that will earn you respect, and doing what is right despite the risk of failure or in the face of criticism will also earn you respect. Similar to Harriet Tubman's story and other examples I know that we can think of where folks have just fearlessly pursued their mission with just bravery and courage. The fourth component of gaining respect is success. Success is attractive to everyone. Others respect your accomplishments. They applaud those. They look up to you. So if you've had past victories, people believe that that's going to happen again under your leadership, and they want to be. If you have had some accomplishments that others are aware of, awards, success, that is something that will attract others to you and gain that respect from them. The next component is loyalty. When a leader sticks with their team through the good, the bad, the ugly until the job is done, and they maintain that loyalty to the organization and to the stakeholders, then that will gain respect from followers. They like to see a loyal leader that's not just going to jump ship when things may get challenging, but they stick through all of that with everyone involved and show and maintain that loyalty throughout. And then the last component is value added to others. When followers see a leader that is pouring into others, adding value to them, and showing respect to them for maybe no other reason other than just that that's something that they're called to do, and they're willing to add value to others' lives and experiences and positions, then that will gain respect, and it lasts over the relationship of maybe, for example, if it's someone within your building, if you have demonstrated wanting to add value to them as a person, as a professional, that even if you may separate and they're at another building, that respect will last, will be long lasting. And the quote on the side, when people respect you as a person, they admire you. When they respect you as a friend, they love you. And then when they respect you as a leader, they certainly follow you.
Pause. All right, Vera.
Yes.
And Vera's not the only, go back to that slide, Lisa.
Okay.
Vera's not the only one that's going to get this question, because, all right, Vera, think about your current principal or your current leadership. At your school, right?
Okay.
Okay, it could be your district, I don't need to know. But of these 6, and speak to it, which one of these would describe that person's leadership? Or is it there? I mean, it doesn't have to be there. They may not gain your respect. They may not be that kind of leader. And that's an answer too. That's a telling answer. But if you respect this person and they are a great leader, which one are they probably following under, Vera? And don't give me the name or anything.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Can I use my previous principal?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we just got a new principal this year, and I'm
Okay.
still trying to feel him.
All right, Tony, you're next. Go ahead, Vera.
Okay.
Okay. The previous principal, she has a natural leadership ability. She is open-minded. She listens, and she wants the best for everyone. She isn't afraid to give up her powers in order for you to get to your next height.
And so that's something that you feel like she's born with. I mean, it's just a part of her personality. That's what natural means. It's just,
Yes.
you're just one of those people that, I just like. I just want to do what you want me to do.
And that's her.
All right. Tony, what's yours?
And I would say mine would be loyalty. My principal, not only does she ask you to do things, but she won't ask you to do anything that she wouldn't do. And she's right there with you. Like she said, she stick with the team until the job is done and well maintained. She don't ask you to do anything that she wouldn't do.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Go ahead, Lisa.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I gotta close this out here. Okay, so when you are looking at your own leadership and you are determining the level of respect that maybe those that follow you would have, a great way to approach that is respected leaders have followers that are willing to step up, take risk, put in those long hours and do whatever is needed to get the job done. They're willing to embrace change that you are asking for. So when you implement an initiative or you're trying to change the way things have always been done, if you have those components from the previous slide and they do have a high level of respect for you, you will find that the other stakeholders will jump in. They're willing to delegate responsibilities among themselves and put in those long hours. But when you are not well respected by others, then when that time for the commitment or the change is implemented, then they're going to make excuses. They're going to be full of doubt, or they may just walk away, jump ship completely. So it just, reading this part of the text put me kind of in a place of reflection of different things that we have done over the years, and just willing to jump in, take those risks, do some really big tasks, and hopefully have that level of respect to trust that the leadership kind of leading that change is on the right path. But I think there have been times where there have been individuals where there are a lot of excuses, they are full of doubt, and it put me in a place of reflection of maybe where was I weaker in their standing or their perspective of me, considering the components on the previous slide. Another great example that chapter closes with of someone that is highly respected in his leadership role was Dean Smith. He had many of the components we've discussed, obviously success. He had a track record with the games won, the ACC titles, the times in the Final Four, 2 national championships. So he had that track record. So he drew in strong folks that wanted to be a part of that success because they trusted that that would still be there with them on the team. He had major loyalty and commitment to the organization and the players. He had a very high level of respect and value added to others. He poured himself into them to make them better while showing everyone respect throughout his interactions. And then he had courage, no fear in the face of adversity. He was ready to go just to head on full force into his role as a coach, and others respected that as a result. Okay, so for a little interaction before we go into the next slide, right in the center on the orange block, if you would type that in, it's http://note.ly/respect, and you should be able, without creating an account, to load the next part. It should look like this when you're able to get in. But I'll go back. I lost it. Hold on one second. Whoops. Oh, it must have. Y'all unable to see it now. Let's see. Has anyone been able to make it to the note page?
I haven't.
Okay.
I think I'm there.
You should see. I don't want to switch over if folks aren't ready yet, but. Are you able to see what I'm sharing now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. I can.
Okay. Okay. So while others are loading in, what you do on this, up at the very top, you choose the colors, and I've designated your responses as to what color they'll go on the sticky note, and then you add a note. Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. Let's try this again. So just a few reflection pieces. As you get logged in, you're going to create yellow sticky notes. You can put them anywhere to briefly type a time others rallied to you during a change. So if you have a personal experience where you were implementing change or asking folks to start an initiative with you and they rallied around you, you can type that on a yellow note. On the cork board in blue, you can type which area you in your own reflections feel like you were weakest in. Your natural born leadership ability, respect for others, courage, your success record, loyalty, or the value you add to others. If you would like, you can pick the green sticky prompt, which is type one sentence for a habit you can work on for 1 month to improve the area that you indicate on the blue sticky as being your weakest. And then on the red note, a quick response of who is someone in your family or as a coworker that you are close to that you could ask what they respect about you or what you need to improve upon. So you're creating the stickies on the cork board. We should all be able to see it. If you change the note color and then do the add note there. Has anyone had any luck being able to attempt to make a sticky note on it?
I can make a note. I don't know if you all can see it.
You should be able.
Like I'm writing one right now. I don't know if you can see it or not.
Let me see if I refresh it. I've got it on my desktop too. Yes, I see where somebody has put 2 yellow sticky notes. I'm going to refresh this one here. And then you can slide.
Where do you type? Where do you type though in the sticky note?
Like once you
I
create the note, you click on it and then you'll have the option to type there. And then you can move it, like slide that over.
Oh, that's neat.
I think my internet's. So choose any of the prompts, just generate your thoughts, and then if you can type onto a sticky note, and we'll put those on there.
So what I'm seeing is I typed on the yellow sticky note, and I just simply typed within that sticky note, but I don't, is it others, can others see it?
Was it the staff rallied when we began to use the school improvement team?
No.
I see a red one. I see, I'm showing.
I typed, but I don't see it.
So someone on a red note, test for Brooks.
Probably John.
Oh, and then a yellow sticky note when the staff rallied around me when we began to use the school improvement team to make decisions as a team for the school.
I don't see mine. I typed something, but I don't see it.
Me either. I don't know where mine went.
Load it back up. Oh, there's
Okay, I see mine. I let our grading policy change.
Oh.
Oh, lead. Excuse
What
me.
did you do for
Type
your
error.
grading policy? I'm curious as to what change you implemented.
Sorry, I got a error on there, but we decided to change. We had a system set up, and no one even really knew where it came from. Where we couldn't give less than a 50.
Yes.
So that caused an issue, because you had some kids that were basically passing but not passing a class because they would like make a 0 or a 10 on something, but we had to put in a 50. So we went in and we changed that, and the students get the grade that they make, but we implemented a contract of hope.
Oh.
Which is something that our new superintendent, she presented that to us, because I'm the chair of the teacher advisory board for the superintendent, and I had to go before the school board. It was a lot of questions they threw at me, but we just started with it, and then we changed a lot of things around with our kindergarten report cards and different things like that.
Oh, awesome. So to connect to the topic of this chapter, to have that buy-in, obviously the level of respect for you is there. Why do you think they were so well led by you and trusting you in that process? Oh, I think it's cutting out. I think my internet. I think I may have cut out there. Can y'all hear me again?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. It keeps saying that it's unstable. I'm trying to load. See, an area that someone mentioned being weakest in is value added to others. I support teachers and encourage them, but I do not go out of my way to build them up. Anybody want to comment on any of their additions to the cork board?
I figured out how to do it. I put family rally, so that was me, but I was just playing with it.
I think it's a little tricky because I think there's so many of us adding that it is a little delayed in adding and showing up. But if you do bring people together to make some suggestions or ideas, this is a great way to do it, and it can be anonymous. But let's see. So I'm going to switch over and go back to my sharing my presentation again. If I could get that to go back up. And I apologize for my internet. Let's see. Okay, so just as a review for the Your Turn activity, taking some time to think about when folks have rallied around a change that you have implemented, being reflective on maybe one of the areas that you find yourself to be weakest in, and just being vulnerable in that honest reflection, thinking about that area that you're weakest in one sentence, what might be a habit that you can work on to improve that area, and just really focus on that for 1 month. And then the last one is, who is someone that you trust giving you really honest, raw feedback and being receptive to that, whether it's a family member or someone that you work with. Because the end of the chapter goes into how can we apply the law of respect to your life. And in these reflections, when you do think about a time that maybe folks have rallied with you or rallied against you, and why was that? Where maybe did the level of respect not measure up in other situations? Evaluating yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 on those areas that we've discussed from the chapter: leadership ability, respect for others, courage, your success record, loyalty, and value added to others. And then write a practice or a goal to improve each area, and then work for a month. And I really liked this because I think as leaders, I would hope we are all pretty reflective, but sometimes you may feel more inadequate in one area, but just knowing that you can be strategic and intentional about increasing your capacity in that one area, and that can turn to folks respecting you more, wanting to follow your leadership. And then do those closest to you, such as your family and closest coworkers, have respect for you, and then ask them to give you that feedback as to where you can improve, and then also where they feel like you excel. And some leadership takeaways that really stuck with me from this chapter is just, as I said before, that intentional and strategic effort being put in on focusing just one habit for a month that you're committed to, that's going to improve how your stakeholders consider you with loyalty, or demonstrating courage in the face of adversity, the respect for others, gaining more success in your position, and how that can improve how others. Oh, that's scary. Another takeaway is just that people follow those that are stronger than themselves, and just reflecting on how I see that in departments within our building, how I've seen that over the years, is just folks naturally want to be drawn and be near those that they feel like have skill sets that they want to acquire. Becoming a better leader means you attract better people. And I think as we experience hiring, and if you're in a small district like myself, when folks consider you to be a strong leader, then you're able to attract, hopefully, better people to support your vision and mission. And then feedback from those closest to you will drive that improvement, because we are all striving to be better in our leadership roles. And this chapter, I feel like, has a lot of really easy takeaways that can be implemented right away to help us grow in our level of respect with our stakeholders. And that is it.
All right. Any questions? All right, if you'll stop sharing, Chandra, you're up, and then we'll do yours, and then we'll take a quick little break after that, and then we'll come back to Tony and Martina.
Am I tonight or next? I thought I was next.
You
Wednesday.
are next.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Stone, I think you're gonna let me go tonight since I'm not gonna be here.
Yes, because Ms. Clark's not here, so you get to go tonight. You're quite right. All right. Vera, you'll go after Tony. No, Martina. Renita. Why do you keep letting me say that? Vera, you go after Renita.
I was just gonna sit here and not go.
No, you don't. You stop me. You correct me.
So am I next?
I struggle with that. It's a unique name. Okay, I'm sorry, Chandra. Go right ahead. Are you there? John, you and Renita, you may want to talk with her after or sometime another, because you have a special assignment for this weekend. You'll be the finance officer. So please have a conversation. All right, we're ready.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, I just noticed that I had my microphone off. Okay, so the chapter that I'm presenting to you all is chapter 8, Law of Intuition. And I really enjoyed reading this chapter because this chapter seemed like it was telling you mostly throughout the chapter that good leaders are ones that kind of follow their sixth sense, so to speak, and they're able to, based on their experiences as well, they're able to make leadership decisions. So chapter 8 is all about the law of intuition and leaders evaluating everything with a leadership bias. And so we first start off by discussing or describing exactly what is leadership intuition, with first understanding what intuition is itself. And it's basically that gut feeling that you get when something is right or wrong. You have a feeling that, hey, this shouldn't be going this way, that shouldn't be going that way, this doesn't sound right, or this sounds good, or this sounds right. So that's intuition. But for leaders, that intuition is the instinct that you can develop by knowing your job inside and out, in comparison to being very familiar with the individuals that you're working with. So understanding your teams, the dynamics of the team that you're working with. So it's based on facts, maybe facts that you've learned for your training. It's based on your instincts. It's based on employee morale, some of those things that you might not necessarily be able to see or put your hands on tangibly, but you can kind of feel the momentum, whether you feel like your organization is hype and it's going in the right direction, or if you feel like things are slowing down, what the momentum is. And then relational dynamics, so you being able to sense how well individuals are getting along with each other, and how well they're able to kind of believe in and want to follow the vision that you've set as a leader. And so the second part of it focused on seeing through a leadership lens. So basically who you are is what you see. And this part shares that instinctively, we almost automatically know what to do when it comes to leading. So many times that'll come instinctively and basically from your experience as being a leader. But it also shares here that people are generally mostly intuitive in their areas of strength, which makes sense to me, because if you're in a leadership role and there are some things that you have to make leadership decisions about or work with others on, and you don't quite have a lot of knowledge in that area, then it may be really hard for you to lead intuitively, and you may have to lead more by facts, or so you don't have that strength in that particular area. And as I was reading that and trying to think about myself as a leader, and how I've been able to, have intuition with certain things and not, it kind of reminded me of when I was first assigned to be a department administrator for our special education department at our school. And I don't have a special education background. And of course I did teach for many years and work with SPED kids, but as far as knowing every single policy and procedure and rules and things like that we had to follow, there were a lot of things that initially in this role I was not able to, I didn't have a lot of intuition there. It wasn't really a strength of mine. And a lot of teachers, the SPED teachers, SPED team that would come to me with different problems and different issues and things like that, I felt like at that time I did not have the knowledge or the intuition to be able to help them solve a lot of issues. But I can see over time that as my knowledge and skills have strengthened in the area of special education, that I'm more confident when we have a lot of these SPED issues to come about. And I kind of see myself being able to almost immediately know how to move forward in handling a lot of different special education related issues.
Okay, pause. Can we pause for just a second?
Sure.
Ms. Ellis, when was that? Was there an aha moment for you when you got to that point? And what was it like, if it was? Or was it gradual, or was there a moment where you had that aha, I can do this?
That aha, I can do it. That aha, I can do it probably came for me a couple of years ago when I had a lot of teachers, the team kind of starting to agree with a lot of the feedback that I would give them. Because before I found myself having to learn a lot from them about special education and the IEPs and all of those things. And now, you know, I'm to the point now where I am giving them, they automatically are like, oh yeah, you're good, that's right, and they're able to go and do it. And so I would say for the last couple of years, I've kind of had that aha, and I've kind of felt like I'm at a place where I can pretty much provide some good feedback to my teachers in the area of special education. But it had to come along with that, learning that, gaining that experience, and then learning more knowledge through a lot of training, within the district on the special education process. And it has helped me to become intuitive when we're making the every single day problem decisions to solve problems related to SPED. And it really is an everyday thing.
All right. So your aha moment was a gradual, where people began to accept you as a leader. All right,
Yeah.
Lisa Moore, give us an aha moment where you realized you were the leader. And then Tina, you have to do one too, so be thinking.
I think it was more just when I was a teacher and just the different committees that I was on, a lot of more of what Lisa said in her presentation, that some of those things where it was kind of, we were floundering and not knowing which direction to go in, and no one was being a leader in the meeting. And so then I would take over, and that sort of thing, that I guess I started realizing, well, I wasn't realizing I was a leader, but that I could organize my thoughts on paper and get a team moving. But I guess it was more when I went to the high school.
But was it at a, because I guess I'm trying to get a point across to all of you, was it at a meeting you kind of realized, you know what, these people are looking to me to be a leader?
I think mine was gradual.
Okay.
You would see it over time, and then the trust that you built and the questions people began to ask and the advice that they began to ask you, and I guess it was more like that. It was more gradual for me.
All right. Tina?
I would say when I realized that I was the leader and the person in charge was this past year when the superintendent chose her teacher advisory committee, and I was chosen as the chair. And I guess I didn't realize that I was going to lead the meeting and everything, moving forward. And until she looked at me that day and was like, okay, Miss Alexander, I'll go ahead and let you get the meeting started. And so I learned real quick, like, oh, okay, I'm in charge of this. I am in charge of everybody on the committee and sending out things. And she just sent someone to me the other day. A guidance counselor had a question and presented it to her, and she directed that guidance counselor to me to look into the situation, and then I will report back to the guidance counselor after we meet. So I think that's when I really realized that, I was the lead on this team.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Ellis. I'm just making sure you guys stay awake.
So the next part of the reading basically focused on different ways that leaders think about things intuitively. And so the first way is leaders are readers of their situation. And so being intuitive in your situation is being able to be aware of everything that's going on kind of around you. You're able to sense different things within your organization. So that's that gut feeling. You might be able to pick up when people are happy about things or when they're not so happy about things. You might pick up that morale might not be so well at your school, and you can definitely sense people's attitudes about certain things before you even really know how people feel. And so I thought this graphic that I used here would be interesting to kind of depict you know, what individuals may be feeling about whatever it is that they're discussing at this meeting here. Are you able to look at this picture? Is this leader able to identify basically how the employees are feeling about whatever situation they're discussing at this time? And so, of course, me looking at the picture, I would say they don't seem very enthusiastic. So I wouldn't think they would be very excited about what it is that they had to discuss. Somebody even looked like very disinterested and bored with the situation as well. And I would also probably suggest, I would probably be able to sense that a lot of these individuals really don't work well with each other, and they're not able to come, you know, to a consensus or an agreement about whatever they're discussing. So just being able to pick up vibes from people, pick up their attitudes, different things they may say, their body language definitely is important. So how well are you able to read different situations? Another way that intuitive leaders think, their leaders are readers of trends.
Okay, can
So
I pause 1 moment? Okay, I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm sorry, you
Yeah.
guys. I don't mean to make your presentation so long. John, are you there? Are you listening, John? Okay. I was going to call on you for a question, but I'll call on Lee.
I'm here.
Yeah. Okay, John. Have you ever led a meeting? Have you ever led a meeting, a teachers meeting, where within 10 minutes you realize that you've got to change directions and you've got to do something different, or have you ever had a meeting where it is so obvious that you are not communicating, you are not leading, they're not getting it, and you immediately were able to switch gears? How adept are you at reading your audience, and have you had an experience with that?
Well, yeah. Well, two things. Well, number one, we do good news sharing at the start of every meeting. So I have had a meeting where just in that 5 to 7 minute window, I can tell by the attitudes and disposition of the staff that they were not ready for us to have a productive meeting. So I've shifted gears at that point and kind of went ahead and addressed some of the concerns school-wide that were present. And so I've done that before, just from reading the body language of the room. And then the second experience I've had with that is just as we begin to discuss certain things, I can kind of sense that there maybe was some uncertainty or some tension with some of the new implementations or new practices or strategies that I've talked about during the meeting. So I'll immediately at that time kind of go shut down the rest of the agenda just to make sure that we don't move forward until all questions, concerns, or are addressed from those specific topics.
All right. Thank you, John. Go ahead, Chandra. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. So the second way that leaders think intuitively, they're readers of trends. And so the chapter said that instead of focusing on day-to-day work, they're more of your kind of thinkers looking ahead, big picture kind of thing. They can determine whether their organization is going in the right direction or not. And it can tell them when something big, their intuition can kind of tell them when something really big is about to happen, or when conditions are changing. So they're really able to really focus on some trends that's going on within their organization. You have something for that, Dr. Stone? All right, so how leaders think intuitively. Leaders are also readers of their resources. And so I was able to find this chart here that helps you to think about whether or not you're a leader that thinks intuitively about the resources that you have available to you. and how to maximize them. And so it gave an example of different types of people and how they would address challenges. And so you have the person that's a good worker that would say, what can I do to help? So anytime that there's a challenge, are you thinking about how you can help out with the situation? Are you the high achiever, where you're thinking about how you can solve that problem yourself? Or are you a peak performer as a leader, where you're thinking about how you yourself, what you're thinking about what you can do yourself to reach the next level so that you can overcome that challenge? Or do you have an intuition mindset when it comes to um, uh, reaching out and knowing what resources you have available? So it immediately to your mind, are you thinking about, well, who is the best person to take on this challenge that we're facing? Do we have any resources at our disposal that's going to help us to address this challenge? How much is it going to cost us? And how do I get people on board and everybody working together as a team to be able to resolve this problem or this issue? Right. How leaders think. So they're also readers of people. So your intuition helps you to sense what's happening among people. And it helps you to sense what's happening in a room. And it kind of reminds me of their readers of a situation, but whether there's curiosity, whether people are curious about something, whether there's doubt, whether there's hope, if you can sense hope, whether there's anticipation or if there is relief. Intuitive leaders are able to kind of read people's body languages just to kind of sense what's going on within the room. Also, intuitive leaders are readers of themselves. So it's someone who really knows their own strengths and their weaknesses. They're in tune to their blind spots, what skills they really have. They're in tune to their current state of mind. If they know they've come to work that day and they're not, feeling well, or they're really not feeling up to it, or they're angry about something, they know that, and they take that into consideration as they move forward. But leaders can also hinder their progress as much as they can create it. And in this sense, you would think about leaders that are self-centered, those leaders that are kind of pessimistic about things, they're rigid in their thinking. These are leaders that often hurt their organizations when they make everything within their organizations about themselves. So an intuitive leader has to be able to think about themselves and their roles and situations, and whether or not what they're doing or how they're presenting themselves as a leader is helping the organization or whether or not it's hurting the organization. Okay. And then there are 3 levels of leadership intuition that were discussed in this chapter. So there are those who just naturally understand leadership. There are those who can be nurtured to understand leadership. It doesn't come naturally for them, but they can be built into leaders. And then there are those that will never understand leadership and won't care to. So those who naturally understand leadership, they really know how to read people well. They know how to move. They know how to move people from point A to point B. They know what to do to motivate people and engage people. And they're almost like what you call them, natural born leaders. And these are individuals that have been seen even in their youth, displaying leadership roles, like the bossy child on the playground, or students that are just naturally able to get their peers to follow them at school. Those are natural born leaders. But then you have the ones that are nurtured. The majority of us kind of fall into this category. We have adequate leadership skills. We're teachable, and a lot of different things that can make us effective leaders. We're actually capable of learning those things. And then you have those individuals that have no leadership skills at all. They have no interest in developing the leadership skills necessary to lead, and the only thing that they care about are their selves and their own personal pursuits. All right, so it goes on to share how to lead with the law of intuition. So first of all, you have to trust your intuition and start thinking about what your areas of strength and natural talents are, and see how you can use those within your leadership. It's important to develop the ability to read people. And if you're not a person that, if you feel like you're not a person that can read people very well, it suggests that you read books on relationships. One good way to learn to read people more is by building relationships with people and engaging in conversations with them. Becoming a people watcher and watching people and seeing if you can sense how people might be feeling about something. And then training yourself how to mobilize people into action. So how can you, for any challenge that you're presented with, how can you motivate and drive other people to help them to assist in overcoming the challenge of an organization without you actually being the one doing all of the work? Okay. And then it also went on to discuss how leaders solve problems using the law of intuition. So when leaders solve problems, they automatically measure it and begin solving it. They're evaluating everything with the leadership bias. An example that they used within the chapter is the success of Apple. And we all know the story of Steve Jobs and Apple, and after he left or pretty much was pushed out of his organization, the success of Apple started to plummet. But as soon as he was able to return back to his organization, because he had a lot of intuition due to his experience and knowledge with technology and motivating people, he was able to, he had the intuition to establish new leadership, refocus the company. He had the intuition to develop a strategic alliance with Bill Gates. And then he even had the intuition to place all of his energy on the MP3 player or the iPad. And all of this together, because of his intuition, allowed sales and stock values and loyalty to increase. Okay. And so, can everybody still hear me? Are you still there? Everybody there? Dr. Stone, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can. I can. I'm sorry.
Just making sure if I can have everyone to unmute. It got eerily quiet for a moment. I thought maybe I had disconnected and was talking to myself. But we're just going to just engage. I don't have a cute activity put together for you all, but just kind of engage in some discussion on your own intuition. And I don't know if any of you have ever thought about things that you're intuitively great at, but starting with the first question, what is your greatest?
Dallas?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, and because I have interrupted so much, and because we do have, I think, 3 more presentations, do you mind if you just let one person pick one of those, and then I think you may have one more slide? And I hate doing it to you. I really do hate all this, but I realize it's my own fault for talking and for interrupting. But in order to make sure that everyone has that opportunity. Does anybody want
Yeah,
to one of them?
anybody. First come, first serve. Ratina?
Renita. What's the name, Dr. Stone?
I'm passing.
What's my name, Dr. Stone?
Renita.
One of my greatest strengths or natural talents, I would say, is listening. I am a natural born counselor, I guess. I've always had the skill of being able to empathize, and people come to me to just talk, and they know that is my response will be sincere. It picked up on something that you mentioned, that leaders are readers of people. So I'm pretty good at reading people. I don't talk a whole lot all the time, but I observe a lot, and I pick up on things. So that is a strength or a talent of mine.
Okay.
Awesome. Okay. And then the very last slide here basically were some intuition practice exercises. And so one of the things that the chapter encourages you to do, of course, and we already discussed this, is to develop ways to kind of improve your intuition by becoming more aware just of situations and things and people around you. And so I may have to end up emailing these links out maybe to you, Dr. Stone, and then you can get it out to everyone else. But I did want to mention there is an intuition game called Extra Sense for those of you that are gamers. That you can download to your phone. If you have an Android device or an iPhone or iPad, you can download that game, and it's supposed to help you to be able to strengthen your awareness skills. And then I do have a couple of other links here that gives you some different exercises that you can do to help boost your intuition even more. So I'm going to get Dr. Stone to share that with you all, and hopefully you'll take an opportunity to actually use some of those exercises just to kind of practice and see just how intuitive you really are.
Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. And we're going to take, thank you. We're going to take like a real quick little break. If you can stop sharing. And we're going to come back. Let's take like a 5-minute break. We're going to come back with Tony and Renita. Can I let Vera go before you, just in case we run out of time, because she's not going to be with us on the weekend. And if we run out, we can do yours on the weekend. So we'll do Tony, Vera, and Renita when we come back. 5 minutes.
Right.
Take a 5-minute break.
He got it right, Renita.
Gonna always remember me after this class.
Okay. Tony, you want to go ahead and share your screen? Go ahead and just set it up. Find the there's a green button down at the bottom called share.
Okay.
We've got it. And
Yes,
give me, we'll just one more minute and we will
Okay.
start back. And Tony, I'm going to ask you to stick to about 50, even if your activity where you involve us is cut a little bit. I know I'm the world's worst for not planning and talking too much. So I'm going to try to get it down to about 15 minutes. That way I can talk for 5.
Okay.
The rest of us can get through the rest of the presentations tonight.
And I went through it a few moments ago and cut some of the slides because I had much more than this, and hope it still give the beef.
Awesome job. All right, I know everybody's not back yet, but we're going to go ahead and get started. Tony,
Okay.
it is all yours, and I'm going to mute myself.
Okay. Maxwell talked about the law of respect and the law of intuition, and now he talks about the law of magnetism. He talks about how who you are is who you attract. A lot of people, in which I didn't understand that myself, but exactly who you are is who you attract. And he said effective leaders always look for good people. So therefore, we are a magnet and draw people of the same liking. Well, and then here, just got a picture, like he said, you select people based on who you are. You are attracted to who you think, who you are within. And if you can remember, those that have sit on interviewing panels, most of the time, we try to find candidates that are like us, or possess the same inner qualities that we possess. So we, as much as we don't want to admit to it, we're looking for those same candidates. I know I do whenever I'm doing an interview. Matter of fact, I did one of a guidance counselor yesterday, my principal and I. And so I'm looking for, in a guidance counselor or whomever, some of the same qualities I have, but especially I look for as confidentiality. Are they able to, keep confidentiality? So again, you do look for some of the qualities that you like or within yourself. And here, if you would just think about it, we'll come at this question a little later. When hiring, what qualities are you looking for? I mean, are you looking for leaders? Are you looking for those candidates that's aggressive? Do you want them to be in what age, 20, 30, 40s? What are you looking for? And do you want to be opposite from your personality? Some say yes and some say no. So just be thinking about that. We'll come back to the end. Maxwell talked about the different personalities of different people. So this section of the book, it was from what I call musicianship to leadership, because they was talking about these two pastors that was at the church that possessed different qualities. The first pastor, which was Dr. Butcher, he attracted musicians and vocalists that to this particular church. And so they was great with musicians and vocalists for numbers of years. But when upon his retirement, the new pastor came in, he didn't possess those qualities. He did not possess the qualities of musician nor leadership. Matter of fact, he said whenever he was hired, that they asked him if he could sing or play, and which he could not do either or. But the quality that he did attract was the leadership. He was a natural born leader. So he attracted leaders to the church. Not all the musicians didn't leave. Some stayed, but his quality was leadership. He was a natural born leader. So those were the type of people that he attracted. Then Maxwell talked about the recruitment of the characteristic of the different people. And I talked about the generation. And if you notice, there are birds of a feather flock together. During the 1990s, Maxwell talked about company was found by people in their 20s, 30s, and so on. So they hired people that was in their 20s, 30s, or 40s to match their personality along with their age. So that's why he was talking about generation there. Attitude. And I call these people negative Nelly. And I'm sure we all have some. Those folks that complain all the time, regardless of what you do, you can't do anything right. They're always negative. Those are the type people that you have to try to reform to get them to conform to what you're trying to do, your vision, or those are the type people that you need to show the highway to get them out of your way, because they would be a hindrance. The next characteristic that he talked about, which I call Southern Sally, it was people are attracted to what I call, and they tend to employ or hire people of the same race, same color, same level of education most of the time. Now, for a company that's trying to have a diverse employee, they will really struggle in this area if they're going to do the Southern background, because of the fact that they work hard fighting against diversity because the magnetism. So if they're used to hiring people that same age, same race, and they're trying to do some diversity, these people normally struggle in this area because of the fact change and the magnetism. And just a continuation of the characteristics, talking about the values. And this was John F. Kennedy, for instance. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what can you do for your country? People are attracted to leaders that have values and similar values, or values that they want to possess, but don't have them as of yet. So a lot of folks, for instance, if they see someone that has the characteristic that they have, most of the time people study these people and try to see what they have done to gain the characteristic that they want. So, and then move right along to energy. People with similar energy are good for one another, because a high energy person and a low energy person most of the time complement one another, because most of the time the high energy person looks at the low energy person as being lazy. And then the low energy person looking at the high energy person usually look at that person as they need some reeling or something, because they are wide open. And then the giftedness. Looking at that one, creative people want to follow leaders that's willing to think outside the box. So they're not really, the norm is boring to the giftedness people, but they're looking for someone that's going to lead them and can think or will think outside of the box. And then here, going against the grain, and what he's talking about going against the grain here, he's talking about that you might not be, or the leader might not be crazy about the people that he or she's attracting. And you might say, am I just stuck with that? And the answer is no. Sometimes if you're an outgoing person, sometimes you need a calm person really to balance you out. So going against the grain is not a bad thing always. Then Maxwell talked about the law of process, which I had to look that up because I had never heard of that before. But the law of process, which is closely tied to the law of magnetism. And the main point behind the law of process is for you to understand that the routine that you tend to take every day is really build what eventually build your strength in doing what you're doing to make you successful as well as your organization. So in other words, you just get in a routine. Your routine is building your self-esteem as well as building your organization. Maxwell said that leadership is learned daily and not day to day. So you need to work on that skill daily in order to build up leadership qualities. And we talked about the law process, just that. I feel like I'm going too fast, Dr. Stone, but I don't want to get in the way. But anyway, so the law process, as I said earlier, he said was closely tied to the law of magnetism. So in other words, most leaders, most effective leaders, they hire people that have the same or possess the same qualities as they do. And it's okay that you don't hire the people that possess all the same qualities you do. That's when they say going against the grain, or law of grain, meaning that you're going to do something the opposite of what you normally do. So the last thing, remember I told you guys to pay attention to this slide here. And just for a little interaction, when you are looking for people, when you're interviewing people or looking to hire people, what are some of the qualities are you looking for in a person? For me, I like a person to be flexible. I like a person to be open-minded, a person that can be creative, and most of all, I like a person that can be honest. Honest to yourself, especially if honest to me. If you can't be honest to me, or you can't work for me because we won't have a relationship. So just quickly, I'm gonna ask John. What's one thing? What are some of the qualities you look for when you're interviewing for a position, John? And then Vera.
Just real quick, I just like to be able to pick on if someone is coachable, if someone is a team player, and if someone has a overall positive attitude. And then most importantly, I like to know that the individuals who want to work with children actually enjoy working with children. And so I try to look for personality traits and less about skill, because you can professionally develop people, but not if they don't want to be there.
Exactly. Ms. Vera?
I look for people who are open-minded, and willing to learn new things. I'm a big stickler on honesty. So I look for people who are honest. I don't try to look for people who are exactly like me or possess the same qualities that I have. I want somebody that direct the complete opposite, so we can mend together.
So it's okay, as we read, as I heard, to go against the grain. It took me a while to actually go against the grain, because I always look for people that possess the same qualities as I did or similar. But the key point for me is honesty. If you cannot be honest with me, then there's no relationship to work towards, because I don't trust you. So again, I say it's okay.
Okay, Tony, I have to ask. So for you, I think, and I know you, someone else mentioned this too. So I'm interviewing for a job at your school, and we're having a great interview. How do you know I'm honest?
How do I know you're honest?
How do you make that judgment about me just from that 40-minute interview that I'm honest? What do you look for?
Most of the time, and my principal and I talked about this last year. We've been together 3 years. Most of the time, we ask a series of questions, putting them in situational circumstances, and tried. I was looking for one of the questions here in my desk. Try to be a good judge. Now, not all times are we correct in judging, but most of the time we are. And I was looking for one of the questions, but we have questions that she and I have developed, and we put them in situations, give them a scenario of something, and most of the time we're pretty good judgment of that.
Okay. Who
Dr.
else
Stone,
said that you look for honesty?
Dr. Stone.
Yeah.
I tend to kind of disagree. I think there's certain things that when you interview, you aren't going to be able to tell in that interview because number one, you're getting the best representation of that person. And then number two, they're interviewing. So a lot of times they're going to say what they need to say in order to be selected for the position. So what I like to do is just not ask the typical interview questions, just to ask more things to get to the core of who they are as people, ask them about experiences they've had, ask them about how adjectives that others would use to describe them, ask them questions like what frustrates them, what tell me about a time you reached your breaking point and how did you, so just to kind of ask questions that are outside of the norm so that you can try to get to the sense and you can shake them up a little bit from them being prepared to answer the typical questions. And then you can get some unprepped responses, and then you can get to the core of who they are as people, and that will lean more towards that honesty piece. But if you just ask them scripted questions, they're gonna lie.
And I'm glad that you said that, because the way you're feeling is the same way my principal and I felt 2 or 3 years ago. And if I can remember to bring the question that we form, like I said, we give them situation. And not all time is it 100%, but 90% of the time we get a good representation.
Probably, Tony, what you're reading on is their body language and some of their ways in which they answer. Because I think if you ask a certain number, and you may have some phenomenal questions, and you probably do, and those questions are making them have reactions, which is what I think John was saying as well. But probably what you and your principal are really picking up on is not what they answer to the question, but how they answer the question, what their body language is. But the other place, Tony, that I think you can really get toward honesty, and I think you hit on this, is when you, after the interview, when you have a chance to talk with references.
Yep.
Or you're just walking that person out the door and they're talking. Because remember, once outside that interview environment, you know, whatever they say, from the moment they enter that building to the moment they close that building, that's all a part of that interview process, whether they know it or not. And so there, you know, it's a tricky thing, but there is a way, and I agree, there is a way to detect a person's honesty. You got to be well trained for it. You've got to have had some great experience for it. But one of the things I think John mentioned too, that I would recommend all of you put in your interviews when you get a chance to start interviewing people, is to throw a question out there that they least expect. Now remember, there are some things you can't answer. You cannot ask. You cannot ask them about family. You can ask. I mean, there's some illegal questions to ask, so be careful about what your question is. But it is always good to throw a loop in there, because I can guarantee you, if I'm coming to interview at your district, I already have in my mind about 10 of the questions you're going to ask me, because they're pretty routine. But it's that one that you throw at me that makes me think and makes me be real. Tony, that's probably the types of questions, some of the questions you have in your group. But that's where you really get to begin to see how this person sweats, how this person answers under pressure, because we've all practiced the 10 questions they're going to ask us. You throw a wild card out there that's legal, that's a good indication of whether or not, I mean, you can watch them. I mean, it really separates those who are genuine and those who are rehearsed. All right, Tony, I'm gonna have to cut you off. Sorry.
All right. All right, no problem.
All right, if you'll stop sharing, Vera, you're up. Vera, there's a green button down at the bottom called share. And you are muted.
I'm sorry.
You see the green button at the bottom called share?
I did, but I forgot to download. I forgot to open up my my PowerPoint.
And that's an honest answer, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And something to you said, Renita, about being a counselor. I think this was back a slide or two while Vera's pulling up her presentation.
Oh, he got the name right, Renita.
I said Renita.
I said you got it right.
All right.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yeah, go ahead. No, we don't. We see you, not yet. So you got to share.
Okay.
But to your point, Renita, about being a counselor, that the ability to watch and to listen to people is a phenomenal administrative ability. And because that, what comes out of people's mouths is not always, there you are, is not always what they really mean. And so the ability to listen and to read body language and to read what they're really saying and really getting to that is a phenomenal ability of anybody. All right.
Hold on. Hold on.
And we're going to give about 15 minutes to this. And then, Renita, you have 15 minutes. And I'm going to wrap up about seeing you all on the weekend. We lost somebody.
Me, probably.
No, you're here. Who did we lose? Oh, we lost Tony.
Okay, Dr. Stone. I'm trying to figure. Can you see it now?
I can see you. There's a green button at the bottom called share.
Well, I don't see it because I'm not
maybe at the top. Look at the top of yours where you pull down some screen. All right, let me show you where mine is. All right, so here you are. So I am sharing. So here, you see this up here, Vera? And do you see this green?
Oh, yeah, I got you.
Okay, I'm going to stop sharing, and if you hit the green one, then it's yours. You have to double click, I believe.
Okay.
And we'll have to find out where Tony went.
Was that it?
No, not yet. I tell you what, though, if you want to send it to me email, and I'll let, since we are going to have enough time, I'll let Renita go ahead. And if you want to send it to me email, I'll pull it up and you can talk from it. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So you send it to me email, wstone1, Garner Webb. Renita, you're up. Chapter what? 10?
10, yes. Okay. So let me share.
There you go.
Okay, and give me a second.
We see your screen. I like your screen.
Do you have my PowerPoint now?
We do. The law of connection.
Yes. My chapter is chapter 10, the law of connection. And I want to say that as we're going through the presentations at the beginning of the book, he said that you could use the laws individually or collectively. And I am seeing the overlapping of them now in just some of the things that were talked about this evening. There's some that pick up a couple of topics that I'm going to be discussing a little bit as well. So they kind of all intertwine. At the beginning of the chapter, he talks about making the connection, and he uses an example. We all know very well this leader, and just based on how he set out to connect with the people, he received two totally different results. The leader is George Bush, and everyone remembers 9/11. The aftermaths of 9/11, he attempted to connect with people in New York. And pictures were shown. He was on TV. Everybody remembers the caption of him standing by a firefighter with his arm around him. He had the bullhorn and he was saying how the people that terrorized us will pay. He went to ground zero. He was there. The people knew that he cared and it resonated with them. He connected. He made a connection. He was also around when Hurricane Katrina came around. So totally different outcome. Everyone knows that assistance was not immediately provided. There were many lives that were unnecessarily lost. It was devastating. And instead of going to the ground zero for Hurricane Katrina, the big pictures that were out were of him looking at the devastation from Air Force One, looking down at the devastation. People felt abandoned, forgotten, and betrayed. Same leader, very different results. So it's all about how he tries to make the connection. And as we get started, can anyone tell me how President Bush could have connected with the Americans after Hurricane Katrina? Anything that he could have done that was better than what he did? Okay, well.
Oh, come on now, you got to help her. Somebody. We don't do this to our classmates. Jump in there, somebody.
Just the people connection that he made with Ground Zero, trying to get out there and being more hands-on. He was not as hands-on with Hurricane Katrina. So again, just making those connections with people instead of just looking at them from above.
Yes, I agree. Just as he went to ground zero, thank you so much.
And one thing he didn't do is to throw paper towels at them.
Yes, that's absolutely right. So it's all it's perception. A lot of this is perception. You've got to connect with people, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. The heart comes first. In making a connection, you first have to touch a person's heart before you ask them for a hand. So as a leader, when you're meeting with your staff or you have initiatives, you've got to get to know the people. You've got to get to know the people who you're going to be asking for something. You'll find that when you want people to move to action, if they have an emotional connection with you, it will be easier for them to develop a sense of loyalty, a sense of devotion to the cause, because they feel that your heart is in it. So always remember, heart before lending a hand and emotion before taking action. You'll develop credibility with people when you connect with them and show them that you genuinely care and want to help them. And this is very true. I love this. This whole chapter it resonates with me. So connecting with people one at a time, even though you're working with a group, especially when you're in school and you're a leader of the school, you have to relate to them as individuals. Yes, you have a staff, but you have individuals within the staff, and they all are different, making up your team, and they all must get individual attention. Okay, some ways that you can do this, of course, is you have to connect with yourself. And then some of these that I'm going through, they resonate with me with Shonda's chapter 8. There were a couple. She said that leaders are readers of people, leaders are leaders of themselves, and they are readers of the situation, of their particular situation. So you're going to see some of that in what I'm about to say. You must communicate with openness and sincerity. People will know when you're fake. You must know your audience. You must know their level, what their desires are, and what their purpose and goals are as you're speaking with them. Live your message. Practice what you preach. We all know how important that is. Go to where they are, and this is something that we tell our teachers. When you're teaching students, you can't just start at A, you have to look at each student. You have to start where they are and bring them up to where you want them to be. Same with the staff members. You have to go to where they are. Focus on them, not yourself. When you're speaking, it shouldn't be I, me. You should focus on the staff and their needs as a team. And you must believe in them. Again, be sincere, just like I said earlier. If you do not believe in them, they will sense it. You have to believe that they can achieve. And offer direction and hope. Always be there for them. That's the part where your heart, you have to be there for them, heart over hand. Result of connection, don't ever underestimate the importance of building relational bridges between yourself and the people you lead. You should always remember that to lead yourself, you need your mind, your brain power. But to lead others, in addition, you need heart. Anyone that's smart can be a leader. But to be a successful leader, a positive leader, you must add the heart to the smarts. When you have truly done the work to connect with your employees, you can see the results in the way the organization functions. Okay, so think about your school or schools that you've worked in, and think about if you have a happy workplace. So some of the things that should be established in order to have a happy workplace. Your organization, if it's happy, your organization will function more effectively because everyone in there will have the main purpose of achieving and reaching the goals. The employees will exhibit loyalty and stronger work ethic. If they're loyal to you, they will go 110% for you. I've seen it, I've experienced it personally. If they feel you have their back, they will have your back. And the leader's vision becomes the aspiration of employees. So they take on what your vision is, they take it on as theirs. That's the connection that you've built. And then it will result in an incredible overall impact in your entire workplace. The tougher the challenge, the greater the connection. And there's an example of a general. This was during Christmas time. He had mess halls. He had a couple of mess halls. He started at dinner, went through and shook every soldier's hand in the mess hall, left that mess hall, went to the next mess hall, shook every soldier's hand in that mess hall. By the time he finished that, he went back to the first mess hall because you have another whole set of soldiers in there by now, and he went through it and did it all again. So by the end of Christmas dinner, he shook over 4,000 hands. One of the most effective methods for connecting with others is walking slowly through the crowd. And that's something that the author pointed out, that making your way through the crowd is a way that people see as a positive form of connection to people.
And I am terrible about that. I walk so fast, I am terrible.
Yes, I don't want to look lost sometimes. So I'm with you. I walk a little bit too fast. I've got to slow myself down. As you're walking, learn names and find out about their lives. And see, if I do all this that I'm talking about now, I will be able to walk much slower through the crowd. Find out how they're doing. Could be professionally, personally, career-wise. Find out how they're doing and how they're succeeding currently. Find time to be available. Show and tell them how much they are appreciated. So you show them, appreciate it. You show them and you tell them. And that's something that I make a habit of doing through email. If I meet with a teacher, I'll always say, oh my goodness, I appreciate you. You are really appreciated. And I let them know personal, and I do. And more than anything, for you to give them a solution or have a comment, sometimes they just need to hear themselves say it, and they can come up with their own solutions, but they just need that ear. So you just have to know when to just listen and when to offer suggestions or advice. Connecting is the leader's job. It's not the teacher's job, the student's job, the parent's job, the community's job. As a leader, you should always be the initiator of connecting people. And as a leader in a school, you have to connect with the students, you have to connect with the staff, you have to connect with the community at large and your families. Leaders take the first step with others and then make the effort to continue building relationships. So engagement. How can school leaders make connections and build lasting, loyal relationships with business leaders and other influential members of the community? I chose this question because that's something that I would like to hear some of what you all are doing. I'm pretty good at making connections with the students, the teachers, PTA, families, but as far as the community in Durham, I live in Wake, so it's new. I can make connections in Wake easy because I've been here forever. But if you all can kind of share with me some of the ways that you all make connections in the business community, I would appreciate it. Just a couple.
Well, one of the things that I do, and I apologize, my daughter's playing on her tablet and won't leave, but I just try to be very specific about what we need from the business partners, because if you give them a whole laundry list of items, a lot of times they feel overwhelmed and they don't want to underdeliver. So we specifically target different business or community partners for different tasks, so they can just have one or two specific things that they help us with. And then the second piece that we do that they've appreciated is we don't make it a situation where we're charity, but we make it more like a partnership. So we're very intentional about ways that we can also help with any other activities that they're doing, that our school can participate in helping them with those. So it's kind of like a partnership and not just a charity event.
Okay. Do you have a business alliance at your school, John? Or is it like a structured business alliance? Because I'm trying to figure out if we need to go that route.
Yeah, well, because we're SIG, we have the family and community liaison person who does a lot with establishing our business and community partnership. So, yeah, we have a person who specifically their job daily is to establish, support, and build those business and community partnerships.
Okay, awesome.
Juanita, when I was in Caldwell County, we actually developed through our PTA network. Every PTA had a business liaison, and we did training for them. And we had 26 schools, so we had 26 business liaisons, which were parents. And so we trained them in how to do it. We trained them in what the district could do and what could not do. We did that through our community outreach and our public information office. And it was pretty successful because it's a lot easier. They expect it when the principal's coming, that, or teachers, that, there's going to be something. But when a parent comes, and from that community, it's a powerful too. So that might be something to consider, is to develop a parent liaison. So it's not just the school, it's also the parents. It's a lot, when a parent comes and you represent 400 or 500 other parents, it's a little bit more of an important message.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a really good idea, because our PTA is kind of looking for their next project right now. So that would be really nice to try out. Thank you. Okay, so my reflection with the law of connection is to look back as a school counselor. As I mentioned, I'm pretty good at connecting with the people that I work with. But looking at my leadership takeaway, it would be more so building the connections with the broader community, walking through the crowd, knowing I'm not an extrovert, I'm an introvert. So that going into to large, strange places, that's something that I have to consciously make an effort and put on my hat and walk through the crowd. It doesn't come natural. So as I reflect, that's something that I would put time into to become better at. And then of course the leadership takeaways. I'm enjoying the book. Chapter 10, thinking a little bit more about my strengths and my weaknesses and my deficits as far as connecting, that I will definitely work on going forward.
All right. Any questions for Renita? All right, Renita, if you'll stop sharing, thank you. Very good job. And just remember, everybody, when you're ready to put your PowerPoint, put it in under presentation 1, I believe. All right, Vera, I'm going to share. And here it is. I'm going to move everybody. So I'm going to put it into a slideshow from the beginning. So it's all yours. And just tell me when to move forward.
Okay, I will. Thank you for doing this. Chapter 12 of Maxwell 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership deal with the laws of empowerment. Chapter 12 begins with talking about Henry Ford. Henry Ford, the revolutionary automobile industry innovator and legend in American business history. In 1903, he co-founded the Ford Motor Company with the belief that all Americans can afford to own and operate a vehicle. By 1914, Ford was producing nearly 50% of all automobiles in the United States. Ford looked like the American success. Maxwell stated, go back to 2, please. Thank you. Maxwell stated, only secure leaders give power to others, and great leaders do not care who gets the credit. Slide 3. This was not the case of Henry Ford. He did not embrace the law of empowerment. We have talked so much about how good change can be. Well, once again, not Henry. He never wanted to change or improve the Model T, nor did he want anyone else messing with his creation. In my opinion, Henry Ford is like seasonal teachers. These individuals never want change. When a young, vibrant teacher comes in with new ideas, instead of embracing the ideas, they want to get in their little groupies and complain. Never once did they consider that this could improve student learning abilities. Go to the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. The younger of the Ford took control of the company, keeping in mind that Ford had not made a profit in 15 years. The company was losing an estimated of $1 million a day. So what do you do when you are over your head and end up losing money? Well, you bring in good leadership. So this is what young Ford did. He hired Colonel Thornton and Ernie Breach. Thornton, who worked with a group of 10 men. This group of men contributed a substantial amount of money to Ford, and over time they produced 6 company vice presidents and 2 presidents. The second influx of leadership came with the leadership of Ernie Breach, an experienced General Motor executive and the former president of an aviation facility. He was hired the second in command. Is that slide 5 right where you're going?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Slide 5, yes. Theodore Roosevelt states, the best executives is the one who has the sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraints enough to keep them from meddling with what they do while they're doing it. Henry II had a nasty habit of getting rid of strong leaders, so therefore he didn't embrace the empowerment of leadership. Both Henry and his grandson failed to abide by the law of empowerment. Rather than identifying leaders, building them up, giving them resources, giving them authority and responsibility, and then turning them over to achieve whatever, they decided to get rid of strong leadership whenever they felt threatened. To lead others, we must help them reach their maximum potential. Hold on. Where's my slide? Oh my God. What does it mean to lead well? Both forwards fail to abide by the law of empowerment. To lead others well, we must help them reach their potential. This means being on their side, encouraging them, giving them power, helping them succeed. Two games we played as a child when we were growing up was the King of the Hills and Follow the Leaders. Well, both of these games were basically one person is in power, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have played Follow the Leaders. Follow the Leader is a game where the first person in the front do things that the second and third person have to do. Well, in order to stand out on top, the person in the front would do things that he knew the second and third person couldn't do, so that would knock them out. So that's the same thing as King of the Hills. Those games are kind of somewhat similar in that way. The problem is both games is the problem with both games. It is that in order for you to win, you have to make others think they are incapable of doing anything. This is what you would call insecurity, and is definitely not the best way to raise a successful leader.
In order to win, others have to lose.
That's exactly right. Next slide, please. When leaders fail to empower others, it is usually due to three main reasons. Job security, fear of losing what you have if you give someone else powers or ways to improve themselves. Weak leaders feel if they help their subordinates, they will become indispensable. Resistance to change. Change is hard. Empowerment brings change because it encourages individuals to grow. As leaders, we must embrace change, desire it, make a way for it. Effective leaders are not only willing to change, they become change agents. If you aspire to a great leader, you must live by the law of empowerment. You must be willing to believe in people and give away your power. Next slide, please.
Ooh.
And I think that's the participation. So we're gonna skip that.
I think we might need to, yes. And let's just do one of them. Let's do one.
Okay.
Do one and call on somebody.
Okay. Lisa. Oh God, I can't think of Lisa's last name.
Well, we have two.
I know.
We have
Duffy?
Lisa
Duffy. Yes.
Lisa Moore.
Lisa Duffy. Lisa, tell me one reason why Henry Ford did not want to empower his people. And there's no right answer. There can be several answers, but there's some reason why he did not want to empower his people.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm trying to reconnect.
We can hear you. Lisa? I think we lost her.
No,
Okay,
I'm
what
here.
about
I'm
Lisa?
here.
Okay.
It's just saying disconnecting internet. Hold on.
What about Lisa Moore?
Get it.
one, he didn't want the change, and he didn't want to empower his people to become better than him or to become more knowledgeable than what he was in his area of trade that was making him powerful himself. Kind of like he was, if you were playing follow the leader, he was the line leader and wanted to remain there.
Exactly. Next slide, please. In my personal life, the law of empowerment is demonstrated by being open to possibilities, being confident, and allowing others to showcase their talents in becoming great leaders. In my professional life as a school counselor, the law of empowerment is demonstrated by sharing my experience that I have learned over the last 30 years. I am confident enough to share my valuable information and or resources in order to help others reach their desired goals.
Oh, me again.
John Stockdale states, great leaders gain authority by giving it away. Abiding by the law of empowerment, it allows us to build others up, give them resources, authority, and responsibility, and then turning them loose to achieve. Empowerment is not insecurity. It's bold and not afraid to face challenges that are placed in your pathway as you head towards success. The end.
The end. All right. So, Vera, what is your one big takeaway about the law of empowerment that you wish one of your former principals had?
One that I wish is giving up, allowing others to spread their wings instead of keeping them contained.
Absolutely. Because that to me is the crust of this particular law, is that if you don't develop, if you're so afraid of someone taking your job, you are not developing future leaders. And if you're not, and if you don't work for someone like that, I would encourage you to move on to another position. Because if someone is afraid of that you're going to take their job, they're not training you well. And they're not training you to stand on your own feet. They're training you to fail. And so if you've ever served for someone like that, you know it's not an easy situation to be in. And if you're currently serving for someone, you might want to have an honest conversation with that person about, hey, give me some other opportunities, you know, whatever you need to do. Because that is a important, and when you become a principal, that assistant principal, do not make them have all the bees, the buses, the books, the brooms, the buses. Let them do other things. Let them expose them to everything that they can do to be successful. You'll be building a new leader, and they will be better for you. All right, so we're going to wrap up. I just want to remind you, we are meeting Saturday at 9 o'clock sharp at the school, and we will be spending all day Saturday talking about strategic leadership with 2 different activities. We'll be spending an hour on activities from 7:31 to make sure that you get a pass in that. All day Sunday, which is from 8:30 to 12:30, we are going to spend on the spa. By the time we leave, we are hoping that everybody will be comfortable enough and ready enough to put their spa final product together. So over the next couple of days, fine-tune that team contact, those kinds of things like that. All right. Are there any questions for me?
I've got a question.
Okay.
Since I'm not going to be there Sunday, is there any way you can put those that 1 hour session in a brief email to me about the things that I need?
I'm going to do that Saturday, but you won't be there Saturday either. I tell you what, Vera, you and I need to probably have a private Zoom when you get back.
Okay.
So when you get back, just remind me through an email that we have a private Zoom that we need to have, and we'll go over that because it's not your fault that things have moved around. All right. Anybody, for the good of the group, anybody, let's talk about 731. Don't fret on that. I know there's a lot to it. We will accomplish all of that this coming weekend as well. There are 3 things you have to do in 731. The annotated bibliography, 3 topics that you are thinking about at this time, and what's the other one? Oh, I don't know. I have it. So we'll do those 3, and we'll make sure you successfully put them where they need to be so that you will pass that particular course. And we'll start talking about your dissertation too if you want to. All right. Vera, if you will stick around after everyone else is gone, let me speak to you for a moment. Just remind you, Renita and John, you have a specific assignment. Please talk about it before Saturday about what I told you you're going to be doing about for Durham Public Schools. The rest of you just come prepared, and we'll have fun all day, I promise. All right. Good night, everybody. Vera, stick around for a moment.
Good night.
Good night. I'm going to stop recording. Does anybody want to have a private with me? I'll stop recording and